Hello there. My name's Yolanda Lewis of Extreme Overflow Publishing. I'm so glad to have you here today because we have a special guest, one of our authors, to tell you more about her amazing book. I have the pleasure of welcoming to our platform author Kadian James. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you, Yolanda. Thank you so much for creating this opportunity for me to be here to talk about our first children's book in the Storm Family series, What's the Weather Inside of You? Yay.
Yay! It was a super fun project. So please tell people, what is the book about?
The book is called What's the Weather Inside of You? And the idea is to use the weather as a metaphor for people, families, parents, kids, therapy offices, schools, churches, just regular people to using the weather to talk about our feelings and our emotions. As a clinician, I realize how difficult it is for people to identify their feelings and emotions. So it was kind of born out of just helping people to expand their emotional repertoire as I helped my own kids to navigate big feelings in our day-to-day lives. So, yeah.
I love it. And you mentioned writing it with your family. So I think it's important to know who the actual authors are of this book. So please tell the people, who are the authors?
So, in order to tell you who the authors are, I have to give you a quick backstory to how we even came up with this idea. The book itself was born out of nighttime conversations with my then 8-year-old. She's now 9. But when I would tuck her into bed at night, we would just download how was her day, talk about her feelings and her moods and emotions. And I always say that I have 3 kids, 3 girls, and you never have 3 of the same kids or 2 of the same kids. They all have different personalities and show up in different ways. And so for her, she is my feelings girl. So at nighttime, we would talk about all the big feelings that went in the day. And my parents were actually visiting one of the times when we were having our nighttime tuck-ins. And they were the ones who said to me, just overhearing us night after night for the 3 weeks that they were visiting us, they would say to me, "Oh my God, you guys sound like 2 big adults, 2 big people talking." And as a mom, I'm just doing the mom thing, tucking my kid in at night. I don't really pay attention to it. But after they said that, I actually started paying attention to our conversations. And I would say to my little 8-year-old at the time, "Girl, you say the most profound things. We should totally write down some of the things that you're saying." And so we would just grab paper and start journaling like the most impactful things that we were seeing. And then on another occasion, I said to her, "We should totally write a book, just given what we're discussing and where the conversation was going." And then I thought to myself, "Oh my God, I promised my kids something. I don't like to make promises to my kids that I don't keep." I'm like, "You promised to write a book. You have to follow through on this." So I started exploring like what the process would be because I've never written a book before. And I interviewed a few publishers and kind of saw what the lay of the land was. And I landed on Miss Yolanda and Extreme Overflow Publishing. And it just felt right. That very first conversation that we had, I knew that you were the one who was going to help us with this project. I just felt like a divine connection. And so the rest is history.
Yes, yes, indeed. And you're making history, especially in the space of emotional management and talking about feelings. We don't talk about feelings enough. We show them and we
Yeah.
show their exasperation in terms of a negative sense, but we don't always have language for them. And your book really provides language to that, which kind of lends me to my next question of what is the relevance in sharing this message now? Now, as in like right now, the future now of tomorrow, the future now of 10 years from now. Why is it so important and relevant to know, understand, and give language to emotions?
I've thought about that question in my mind a lot. And I think the goal of the book has sort of evolved. And I think lately what I've come up with is as I think about my own kids as a single mom simultaneous with the work that I do as a clinician, holding space for other parents, not just single moms, but just parents and the struggles with them not understanding their own feelings. And if they don't, how are they going to pass that on to their kids? So I saw the book as a children's book for families. So it's not just for children. It's helping the parents heal their own shadow sides and expand their emotional repertoire. And if we can heal one family, one household, and they can be healthier, then it means that that can translate into a healthier community. And a healthier community translates into a healthier world. And I think right now, especially this time and season and atmosphere that we're living in, where it's so divisive, and I really think that the big feeling that the book sort of promulgates is love. We talk about all the others, the sadness, the loneliness, anxiety, and people don't often think that kids have those things. So we were diving into that, right? Kids do struggle with anxiety and sadness and loneliness, even though they're surrounded by love. But love is the overarching feeling that brings us all together within our individual families and also our community and the wider society. So that's the goal.
Yeah, I love that because your book does cover all the feelings, not just the easy, happy ones we can see and feel comfortable talking about, but also feelings of even frustration. I would say one of my favorite parts of your book is where the mom gets frustrated. What would you say is one of your favorite moments in the book? And I would ask you then, by extension, how do you examine and how do you share that point of frustration without guilt because it is an emotion?
Yeah, certainly that is one of them for sure. And I think my kids too, if they were here, they would tell you, especially my little one, my 6-year-old Sky, SKY, her real name is SKYE too. She would tell you that is one of her favorite parts in the book as well. Rain, it's one of her favorite parts of the book because she got to be her real sassy self. But it was important for me to show my authenticity as a mama, Storms do rage. There's that part of it. Storms are strong, right? So the name Storm is not just the angry person, but it's the strength of a mother. But even in your strength, you get to feel all your feelings too. And sometimes, especially if you're not poured into, meaning you're not resourced, you're tired, you're running around like an Uber driver with your kids for their activities, and you're making dinner, and you're working, and you're doing all these things, and you're saying, we live as a community in this house. We have to help each other. You make a mess, you got to clean up. So the part in the book is where Mama Storm walked into the kids' room or the playroom, which is a real thing in our lives, in our house. And they did not clean up like Mama Storm asked them to clean up. And she was really, really frustrated. So she got a lot cloudy, but she held space for her cloudiness and her feelings as she should, as all parents get the right to feel their feelings with their kids and not apologize for their feelings, but also simultaneously explain. And I think this is the gap I see in our families. This was certainly a growth moment for me as well, too, as I navigate motherhood sort of a second time around. My oldest is really old, I always say. And so this is another opportunity at motherhood, mothering my littles. And I see myself doing it very different. And I think that was to kind of go back to my parents. That was something they observed as well, too. They saw the kind of shift in how they raised me and how I'm raising my kids. So yes, we hold space for the big feelings. Mamas get frustrated if our kids do not follow through with what was asked. But at the same time, Mama Storm gets to explain why I'm upset with you for this. And I love that we all came together in love, where I think Sky had said, I'll help Mama. The book itself just showed sort of physiologically what was happening with Rain, in that her shoulders softened, hands aren't folded anymore. That's the part she really likes in the book, where she got to say, why did Mama have to get so upset anyways if she was here? That's exactly what she would do. So she got to feel her feelings, and I got to hold space for the fact that, yes, my sassy kid gets to voice her feelings without me interpreting that as she's being disrespectful. And I know a lot of families might say, you don't get to talk to me. That's how I was raised. But I think her expressing herself and giving her that space to say that's how she was feeling. But at the same time, the book articulated how the family moved through all of these different feelings simultaneously in this one example. And then again, love brought us back to center.
Yeah, it's so powerful that you go through all of the emotions, the up and then the coming down.
Yeah.
Your book helps them journey through that. There's another piece of your book that's very, very interesting and truly insightful to help hold space for families who can go through that. They're reading the story, of course, but there's parts in the book where they can actually practice that. Share with us how that comes about and how you all came about with adding that into the book and what's its purpose in having it there.
So I'm going to call myself out right now. Feel free also to tell me that you are not the easiest client to work with.
Oh,
Um, I know I can be, when we imagined this book, and because it was such a labor of love, I wanted it to be exactly how we started to imagine it in our heads. And so I didn't want it to be a typical children's book. I think we had that conversation, like it's not necessarily the typical. I'm like, I still want it how I want it. And so I wanted it to be not just a picture book or a children's book. I imagined it also being interactive. Because a big part of parenting is having that connection with your kids. And when you're reading a picture book, it's either you reading or the kid is reading, depending on the age of the child. But I also wanted like practical tools that families could actually use beyond just reading it. I wanted tools that parents could think about, children could think about, therapy rooms could think about long after you close the book. And so, like the activities after each section or each topic, as we called it, on page 15, it says, ask your child, how does the weather look inside of you today? Is it sunny, cloudy, or raining? Well, I've actually been getting feedback already about how their kids, people have said that their kids have started to use the weather to explain their feelings. One mom, she literally called me and she said, Storm, I just want to tell you that I am so grateful for you because my son always struggled with talking about his feelings. And, in a society like this where boys don't have feelings. So that's another feedback I already got from a mom to say that it's helping her little boy have language to talk about feelings and to know that it's okay to have all 200, even as a boy. Right. And so I'm starting to see the utility, and that just makes it so worth it because that was the point, to give families the space, the opportunity, the language, because none of us know what we don't know. And there are more than 5 feelings or emotions,
right.
right? So, yes.
I love that. I love this. So, with all of that, what is next? What do you have coming up next?
I'm a single mom and I run a business that takes care of my family, clinical practice, and it's that, so we're thinking about the launch, and this is part and parcel of it. When you and I conceptualize, you were brilliant enough to say we could make this the hug campaign, so hug and love and so on. The girls are super excited about the launch. They're very involved in every single aspect and area of the planning. I was looking back at like the first video I did off the book, and it's quite a lot. We could make a couple more books out of that. So there's that piece. So we're going to have the book launch, kind of like an indoor activity. So we're going to do that. We also, my 6-year-old Sky, she's already conjured up her next book, not our next book. It's called Cloudy. And actually, when I Googled her actual name, it means cloud.
Wow.
Very apropos, right?
Wow.
Oh, yes. And she's literally starting to pen and draw. So
I love it.
My Rain is also quite the writer. She loves to write stories as well too. So she's written a bunch of different short stories. So we'll see how that will manifest itself. But they're super excited about seeing themselves as authors and as a mom, just giving them that opportunity to build their self-esteem is just really wonderful to see. And then their friends also have been very supportive of it. So being able to like talk about that with a lot of like confidence and humility and all the things. Yeah, so that's kind of what's next. I'm just waiting to see how God is going to use the book as well too, to really step into spaces that you wouldn't otherwise see a family that look like us, you know. That's another feedback as well too, you know, just seeing a representation for families, right? Not because you're a single mom, it doesn't mean that you can't raise your kids healthy and functioning.
Right.
And for me, like internally, that's one of my biggest missions as well, too.
Absolutely outstanding.
And one more thing, Yolanda, one of the other special projects that I really wanted to include in the book as well, too, was a note to parents, some mama's wisdom. This is where my clinical side juxtaposed with my being a mom of three girls of different age ranges and just seeing my own growth. I really wanted to put that in, but we have about 9 wisdom in the back of the book, and it just kind of weaves through emotional regulation, what emotional safety is, the importance of engaging in play with your child. I even dove into a little bit of what oxytocin is, which is the lover bonding hormone, since again, the book coalesces around love, just saying hug your kids for 20 seconds a few times a day. And that oxytocin, that same love bonding hormone that happens when you give birth to a baby will flow through. And that's a practice that my girls and I will do. I started out with me just saying to them, I need my 20-second hugs before now they know about oxytocin, right? Of why we're doing it. But
Right.
just helping people to understand that. And then there was a feelings wheel. So practical tools for families where they can look at all the 200 ways in which we express our emotions. And so that too, it's like you have a ready hands-on resource to be able to expand your emotional vocabulary. And then the book finally ends with some affirmations to practice with families. Just saying like, I'm strong, I'm blessed, I'm courageous, I spread love and light. Isn't that what we want, to spread love and light to our community? I'm beautiful on the inside and out, and just let it resonate with families. The more you say, the more you speak these positive things to yourself, the more it starts to become part of you. It becomes a habit. So speaking kind and loving words to ourselves help build strong self-esteem and reminds us of how valuable we truly are.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
If people want to order not just copies, but bulk copies of your book to share with their schools, to share with their libraries, their churches, their women's group, their Girl Scout troops, or even other book clubs that are talking about adult books and maybe have a sub book club for children, how can they get in contact with you and reach you for more?
Yeah, so we have a website, a very comprehensive website. It's called stormrainsky.com. So www.stormrainsky.com. So you can put your orders in through that. We're also available on amazon.com, barnesandnoble.com. And so those are some options.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing some time to share about your book with our audience. I'm so excited for all of the greatness that will come from this project and how you will change the world through allowing and giving space for emotional intelligence and being able to process your emotions, knowing that it's okay to feel. It's okay to feel. So,
Absolutely.
yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. And until next time, take care and God bless.
Thank you so much. You be well. Bye bye.
Bye.